Okay, good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it's nice to meet you, to stay here with us. I am Arthur Claire from Sinovoltaics. We are a company providing quality inspection services to ensure solar project developers for their return on investment, which is the topic of this panel, so that's great.
Thank you.
I know that right now, most of you must not like me, because I'm the only person standing between you and your lunch, so apologize for that. But still, bear with me, and I'm sure you will have a great 50, 60 minutes time to discuss about how to achieve better return on investment. Because, as you all know, we are transitioning from coal and gas to renewable energy. And this is really, really important that we do that as quickly as possible to leave a really nice world to our children and grandchildren. Still, we need to provide to our investors, to our shareholders, explanations and on how their money is used to ensure that their projects are quite profitable. And that's the topic of today. So we have 6 great speakers with me today that will now, each of them, introduce each other. If you don't mind, we'll start.
Hello. Hi, my name is Radoslav Mikov. I'm an attorney and I represent WolfTheiss. I'm 23 years already in the energy sector, and in the last 10 years I've supported quite a few investors in developing renewable projects, wind, solar, financing of such. So nice to be here, and thanks for the organizers. Congratulations for the nice event. Thank you.
Thank you. So nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Sam. I'm representative of Huawei Digital Power Business Unit. So in charge of the South Balkan countries, including the Bulgaria. So for digital power business of Huawei, that we have covering the solar, renewable energy, and storage, EV, and data center facilities. So I'm very happy here to share some ideas from my side. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alex Sekulovic. I'm in charge of operation and finance for CWP Europe. I joined happily the company end of last year, and previously I spent 20 years working with General Electric in energy sector, 14 years out of that in wind onshore. And CWP is a renewables company, and we like to believe that we are very best positioned to drive the energy transition by really bridging the gap, decarbonization gap between Southeast Europe and rest of Europe. The company has been founded for the purpose of building RES project in Southeast Europe in 2006, and we have built some of the biggest projects in Europe, in Romania, and also big projects in Serbia. So we like building big things. And we are active across 7 countries in the region, 6 gigawatt pipeline of solar and wind. And look, we would not be here without the team. I see some of them here. And we are really proud of the team and the deep expertise that the team developed in the project screening, site selection, development, but also PPA, finance structuring, etc. So happy to be here, and thank you.
Okay, yeah. Hello everyone, my name is Martin Iliev, and I'm representing WPD, leading German developer of renewable energy projects. We are focused on wind onshore and solar. And in Bulgaria, we are developing only wind onshore projects. We are in the country for more than 15 years. We've been through all the waves and ups and downs of the market. We're here for the long run, and we are looking for our first project to be realized in the next years. So I'm also happy to be here, and I hope we have a good discussion.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vladimir Tabutov. I'm co-founder and CEO of Hex Solar. I have realized in the last 15 years more than 250 projects over 35 countries, acting either as investor, mainly EPC company, or just executing projects. In the last 2 years, I have been able to participate in the Energy Commission with the guys who were sitting here before us. We have been drafting some of the legislation, and I'm glad that I was part of that in order to make sure that also realization of projects in Bulgaria is smoother. I'm also board member of APSTE, and I'm preoccupied nowadays mainly with providing EPC services along Europe in various destinations, and I'll be happy to share my experience. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Maria Merdzhanova. I'm heading the sales team for Jinko Solar for East Northern Europe. I'm happy to be here. Actually, the topic is very interesting, and I think we have one of the biggest projects with the latest technology here in Bulgaria on the Balkans. So that would be a good topic to discuss.
All right, thanks a lot. So to kickstart this panel, maybe let's do a quick poll to give some insight to our panel. Can you all raise your hand if you can, first of all, listen to what I say? If you want to participate, okay. Okay, so please keep your hands up if you are either investing or also developing renewable energy project. Okay, so say 30%. Okay, also keep your hands up if you had at least one project that didn't achieve its expected profitability. Okay. So thanks a lot for being for sharing. But so the good news is you are not alone. The bad news is it's a systematic and a systemic issue, because end of last year in the US, it was only for solar projects, but it was shared that that all of the US projects were missing their P50 target by on average 8%. So meaning that return on ensuring that the profitability of your project is a key topic, and most of the companies around the world do not manage to do that. So let's start with our panel with a first question for Vladimir, if you don't mind. Since you are much involved with solar project, do you have any comments to share maybe on how you help your client to achieve better return on investment?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address first the issue. Now, I would like to just cast some light about what is the role of the EPC party within the full investment process. And for me, an EPC company is really a risk management vehicle. It is actually the tool that an investor can use in order to transfer the risks that they don't want to bear. And the more this tool is elaborate and sophisticated and experienced, the more those risks are really diminished and decreased. Respectively, the profitability, I believe, of the projects can be increased. There are two main factors that define the profitability or IRR of a solar project that I see. There are many combinations and many circumstances that can flip this P50 or P90 or whatever, but there are two main factors, and those two main factors are associated mainly with the role of the EPC. One is the CAPEX and OPEX, so how much do you really spend to realize your project? And the second one is how much energy do you generate, right? And both of those factors are a function or a result of the job of the EPC company. So I do believe that as an experienced EPC company, you will be able to set really the expectations of the investor and to guide also the development of the process of taking decisions in either selecting premium equipment in your process, in your project, sorry, or defining something else. So as an EPC, you're involved in three main parts, which is the engineering. This is directly linked with the project development and also financing of the project, at the engineering stage you really understand what will be practically your investment, what you should plan as a realization in terms of technology, and also in terms of expectations of power generation. And the power generation is the ultimate goal, yeah, optimizing the power generation. Then on the side of procurement, the EPC company role is really to select the risk that the investor should bear. There are investors that typically look for the most economically sound, decision in terms of equipment. Others are going for LCOE. I mean, we need to understand the criteria, and the experienced EPC should be able to guide the investor in that direction. And then construction, I see that mainly it is during the realization phase that a lot of projects are failing, and I should say also during the commissioning phase, right? So everything comes together at the commissioning phase. So you have had years of works for developing the project, for working with the grid connection company and the TSO, for delivering all the equipment and installing it in a proper, sustainable way. And then when you need really to start feeding into the grid and testing your PR, this is when practically things face the reality, and everything that was put down on a financial model really gets a check, right? So I think it takes a very experienced EPC company to handle the full process, and there are a lot of things that can go wrong and a lot of things that can go right. So the profitability, I think, of such kind of investment is very, very linked to the expertise of an EPC company.
Thanks a lot. So talking about things that can go right, maybe Maria, do you have some inputs on how you are helping your clients to do that?
Okay, Vladimir mentioned a very important topic, LCOE of a project. This is a new concept which came up like 3-4 years ago when the industry moved from poly to monoperc. So then instead of looking at price per watt, we start looking at the LCOE of the project. So you have to put in the whole package. That's the development, that's the technology of the modules, then the technology of the every single component you have, and then you calculate and you simulate the whole generation. Unfortunately, we are still seeing a lot of developers from the first wave, 10, 11 years ago, which are still looking at the price for the module, the price for the inverter. It doesn't work this way anymore. And all the suppliers, and Jinko is one of them, we have invested billions to innovate and to produce higher efficiency, lower degradation product. And this is to increase the LCOE of the project and the generation. Why should we invest this money if it's all about a price per watt? It's about security. It's about long-term return on investment. And this is what the investor should be looking at. And the EPC and the engineering company are actually the brains. So they should trust their judgment. And this is why most of the suppliers are in constant collaboration with the designing companies, with the EPCs. It's to update them on the technologies and to make them understand the difference and the advantages so they can be the ones who actually judge which is the best technology for a specific project. And that's my recommendation. It's trust your EPC. They know. It's not the price only. It's a long-term investment.
Thanks a lot. So we talked a lot about solar so far, so let's maybe switch to wind. Is there any inputs maybe from you?
Yeah,
Martin?
thank you. And I totally agree with the colleagues here from the solar business and what they shared. The difference here is, I can see a lot of colleagues from developing wind. We have really a long development process. I think the 5 years is the optimistic scenario in Bulgaria. And even we have to foresee what is going to happen in more than 5 years, which is really difficult. And actually what we're, we had discussed for the solar projects, we also try to actually limit the uncertainty of the project and to bring a project to such a state that the colleagues from procurement teams, from PPA departments, they can have a solid base and they can put more value and go for the more realization phase. But before that, this is, I would like to make that it's very important during the development phase that we take into account all the uncertainty and we have the resources on site. So this is very important for the profitability of the project in the future. If we have managed to proper estimate what we have as a resource, this is the base of the project. Then we're thinking about the technology that's available. Nowadays, you can see this rapid development of technology. It's really, we are kind of guessing what's going to be in the market in the next years, 8 megawatt turbine, 10 megawatt turbine. So we are actually trying to go for like managing the risk and the uncertainty on all these components, trying to position all the locations and our projects in area where we are not only looking for the return of the investment, but also sustainability. Yeah. This is modern now, but we really think that only looking into all the factors, environmental, legal, and technological, we can have the projects in the long run and have also the community in the area going along with us in the projects. So yeah, similar topics like for the solar colleagues, but yeah, the long process, this is really, I think, maybe Alex, you can also.
No, I was just wanted to have a comment on, how do you manage and what do you think about the wind turbines, getting bigger in size?
This is
because,
for us. Yeah.
Yeah, what we've seen in the last year is as well, quite some cost of quality issues from our OEMs that have been used in the industry, due to mostly driven by that, also by supply chain. So, I just wanted to kind of.
We are focused right now. We're not even making. When we start a project, we are actually not focusing so much on the return. We are actually trying to mitigate all these risks with having a bigger volume, bigger projects. That's why we are having bigger projects, not because we can't develop small projects. Bigger project, more problems. So we, as a development, on the development side, we are trying to develop good projects, and with the scale, actually, we are trying to be ready for this, supply chain issues or material prices, whatever. So we have also expecting higher connection cost. So this is how we are dealing with large-scale projects and trying to find the right time.
Exactly. And what we've seen in procurement, I think, there is never an easy time, but doing a procurement job for renewables these days, it's really challenging, and it's mostly linked to the materials, for solar panels and wind that are rare materials and then sensitive to geopolitical situations and price moves. And COVID, we all know what kind of disruption it goes, to the whole supply chain. So looking into the renewables procurement strategy going forward, I think it's really critical to diversify the supplier base that we work with, and that's requiring a much wider, supply chain assessment, pricing analysis, and really keeping your options open. What I would also add to is that the procurement strategy. From our perspective, it's critical that it's very clear what the budget is, what the timeline is, and what the requirements are for the suppliers, and that needs to be aligned between the project owners and the suppliers to meet the IRR requirements, but also to be able to, to flex and change So, you know, that expanding the supply chain and having more choice will take more time and more work, but I think it's the only way. I think another challenge that it's, I think, coming our way, maybe elephant in a room, but it's the cost of the OEMs. We know that European OEMs, you know, suffered from supply chain. We talked about quality issues. So, you know, some of their margins last year, you know, probably 30–40% due to the quality issues and supply chain issues have been, you know, wiped out profitability. But at the same time, on a paper, Chinese OEMs seem to be like 50% cheaper, but I think it's critical that we don't only look at the upfront cost, but the cost of the total ownership of the project, and really understand, you know, is there production-based availability guarantee like we are requiring from European OEMs, and how does that compare? How does O&M compare, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yeah, maybe I can add here that we are actually in the group. We have our own O&M company, which is part of the group, and we are lucky that we realize projects. Usually, they are servicing for us, and how to say, I think we are more flexible here to manage this situation because we cover the whole range: development, financing, construction, and operation. So, in my opinion, this is also something, having a bigger portfolio and services covering the whole range, I think is also something that is probably also in the future can be a solution for these risks and that we face. And
and also on the turbine side, you know, I don't know how you manage, but it's critical to have on quality a clear requirements towards procurement and the suppliers, because, you know, the machine components are just, you know, all the defects. It's just very critical to identify them early on. So, you know, one of the possibilities would be a factory acceptance test, where you really go to the supplier site and you would, you know, be part of the testing of the machine head. Because, you know, like you said, Vladimir, if the issue hits you at the site during the construction, you know, then you have like 5 cranes waiting and 5 crews waiting, and your IRR will go down. So, you know, the quality controls and check, and the sooner you catch the defect, the better it is.
I would add that the technology is evolving so fast that I think for some projects we sometimes even put some prototypes, and this is really difficult. So it's like you said, this quality control is very important, and it's how to say, it adds to the return, and it's stabilizing the cash flow, and But I think everyone is speeding up for different new technologies. So more bigger turbines. So in our sector, we still need to see how to manage this, but it's a risk, of course.
It needs to fit the project design, right? The same as transformers. I think the transformers, both for solar and wind, are really competitive advantage if you're able to, you know, match to the design of the park. It will create energy efficiencies and high return. You know, and these components are also time sensitive because of the material. So,
Okay, thanks a lot for your insight. Maybe do you want to share some comments about the major risks that you see?
Just to make you smile, first of all, those that raised hand that they didn't had the return on investment from their projects were those that realized projects, actually. Since 2012, let's say. Those that raise hands that they do invest, we'll see in the future. So I think that those that made profit were the suppliers of machinery and components and the banks. But that's life, you know. In any case, yeah, development of a renewable project is a lengthy process, and operational-wise is at least 10 to 20 to even 30 years. And what I heard from the colleagues so far, and what I've seen in my experience, is always planning. This is the key, but also being flexible and also being open to challenges and changing of the parameters of a transaction. What we've seen in our experience advising investors, sponsors, or being it developers, first of all, you need to have several, along the lifetime of a project, you have to very well structure your approach. That means, first of all, you need to have a very careful choice of location and where you are going to locate. This has to do with the grid capacity, of course. I'll come later to that. But you need to assess. There was a discussion about agricultural land versus urban, but also whether it's a state-owned or municipal-owned or private-owned, because this makes a difference to how you acquire, whether you have a right to construct, because in Bulgaria this is a specifics of the lease is not possible. We often have this question from the foreign investors: can we do a lease? No, you cannot do lease, simply because this is specifics of the Bulgarian legislation. Therefore, you need to consider that at the very early stage. Also, 85% of Bulgaria is within Natura. You all know that. Many investors are really afraid when they hear Natura. They say, "Oh, no go, no go." Well, it's not the case. Of course, there are different. There are two protection directives of birds and habitats. It makes sense, of course. The bird directive is more cumbersome, more requiring. And often projects which are located in such areas are more problematic, but it means more costs and lengthier procedures. It doesn't mean that a project is not possible and viable. What you also need to consider is, for example, the structure of the vehicle of that you are going to use. Everyone says, "Oh, it's a limited liability, no problem." Yeah, but if you look on a long term, if you need to go for exit strategy, I mean, people at the beginning are friends, they are developing a project, but over time, things change. You have to be careful and you have to take consideration of that. Or you need to secure some, put securities over shares or quotas. It makes sense from corporate perspective, from financing perspective, and it really makes sense to think about that at the very beginning of a project. We've talked and we've heard about capacity of the grid. This is a crucial topic, of course. I share my opinion that this temporary solution that they want to introduce into the Ordinance number 6, in my humble opinion as lawyer, it will not bring any visibility or clarity. It will be more complex and more disturbing for the system. This is again my opinion. Because I'll give example for the users of the grid as consumers. Often when there is this term vremyanka in Bulgaria, when you're connecting a construction while it's constructed, and some people are living in flats or buildings which are with vremyankas for 10 years, and they never get the final connection. Similar here, but let's see. Development process is really, I would say there are three key phrases for the development process. First of all, awareness. You have to know what is the process. I mean, not only change of designation, detailed development plan, but you need to know the entire process. So this is the awareness. Then you have to have a realistic expectation of the process. I mean, realistic in terms of time, in terms of costs, in terms of efforts and expenditure that you need to involve, including resources, like human resources, like preparedness, etc. And the last thing is compliance. Compliance is very important because we see that many investors just try to cut corners, just try to avoid and shorten deadlines. But when we come to financing, when we come to due diligence, then it's a big issue, because then it's hard sometimes to remedy, or you cannot remedy. And then the big discussion between the seller and the buyer starts, or the bank and the borrower begins. What is the risk? How you tackle it? How you address it? Whether it's mitigatable at all, or you are going to have a big issue in front of you. Consultants, very important. You need to engage experienced consultants, whether being technical, legal, financial. Use people with experience, use people that know what to do. The market is flooded with people that don't have a clue what they are doing, and the learning curve between the investor and such advisor is a disaster, believe me, I've seen that. Due diligence process, also very important, whether being it technical, financial, legal, etc. You have to be prepared if you're a seller, and you have to be demanding if you're a buyer. No way around it. Full due diligence, virtual data room. Private equities, for example, when they want to invest, they want to see all the documents in digital format. They don't want to see data room in paper. They don't want you to go somewhere in some room and look in lots of folders, etc. This will not fly with such investors. So it's very important to then we come to the engaging the proper persons, designers, to choose the proper design for that location, for that technology, because it will all at the end come on you, on your head, at the end when you want to have return on investment. Of course, EPC, already mentioned. EPC is very important, but you need to also structure your contract with the EPC provider, because it is, I've seen 5 pages EPC contract. This is not serious. This is absolutely not serious, and it will not fly. For sure, there will be big issue, and we will end up in court sooner or later. Also, in the EPC, you have to be very careful, not only about the body, but all the attachments, all the specifics, whether being it obligations of the EPC contractor, the guarantees, the warranties, the performance ratio, etc. So all this needs to be considered. Also, we've seen different projects, how they are structured. We've seen owners bringing their own panels. We've seen EPC turnkey. Everything is in a package. But also, and most of the projects, whether being it wind or solar, the connection is outside the EPC, and it has to do with timing, the interfacing, and how you end up with testing, with the completion of because if you have structured your EPC and they are ready with the project, probably you're going to pay penalties, liquidated damages, because you're not ready to make the tests, because your connection line is not ready or your substation is not ready. So this is again planning. So O&M, of course, very important. This is actually 10, 20 years or 3 years. Of course, the investor would like to learn to get into its project in 3 years and then start all over by themselves. Not so easy, but it is possible. Of course, PPA. PPAs are different, and this is more and more the topic recently. Of course, PPAs can be, I mean, the spike in prices 2 years ago, this no one expected. If someone would have told me 10 years ago that we'll see 1,000 euro per megawatt, I would bet anything that this is not going to happen. But it happened. So it is really, I mean, the market is lucrative. It goes up and down. So both parties should have reasonable expectations. For me, long-term PPAs are a bit risky for both parties. And usually, at a certain point of time, one of the parties will want to exit such a relationship. So all these have to do with planning, and knowing what you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for your detailed feedback. Sam, some topic we didn't cover yet is about storage. I know that your company is developing energy storage system. as a way to make projects more to improve the return of projects. Could you maybe share more insight about that?
Yeah, sure. Actually, that nowadays we see actually storage is a very popular topics because every customers we have discussed, EPC discussed. One of the questions that do you have a storage systems and do we need a storage system? So renewable energy actually has become a very main power supply in the world and also in Bulgaria. So actually that with more renewable energy that we actually see that how to ensure that your return. Actually that we can see that last time we discussed one of the customers, they mentioned that, okay, some of the energy that during the peak time that is being cut off because of the grid cannot accept more power that's from the renewable energy. And I think this is a global issues because this has happened quite often. So this actually make a very unpredictable return for the investor. That's how to ensure that your return, which is on the paper and which is on the real world, actually affect a lot. So storage for sure is one of the very, the important tools that to store the power. And with this storage of the power, for sure that you can use the price different, and you can benefit from the price difference to earn additional return of the money. Apart from that, actually, with the more renewable energy penetrations, the grid also facing a bit of more concerns because that's how to how to protect, how to monitoring the renewable energy. So another very important storage function is to stabilize the grid with the frequency support, frequency regulations. So actually that with many of the markets that open the frequency regulations actually also aid another benefits for the investors. And the most important that for the storage also can supply a lot of auxiliary service to the grid, like the voltage regulations, reactive power support, and also the black start. So these functions are also very important, and the grid actually need these kind of functions. So which many of the markets actually pay more rates than the energy market. So actually that we can see, for example, like a UK market to open this kind of service to the storage system. Actually, the investor has a better return. We have looked for a lot of discuss with a lot of investors, and they can see that even less than 5 years return for this kind of storage system. So I think I know that in Bulgaria also has opened and discussing the plan to have a storage combination with the renewable energy. And I think this is very important for the market. So this is, I think, also we urge that this kind of policy can be released as soon as possible. And I see that actually our panel's members has discussed a lot of security and the quality of the products. And I can see actually for PV products, we produce the inverters, but we don't just see inverter as a power electronics devices. We look at this as a smart devices because you need to integrate this smart solution with the device to give the investor proactive operation maintenance solutions to monitor the project with more intelligent ways. And with more AI, that technology, also you can detect the problems in advance. So we don't see that our device, like inverter or storage, is only the power electronics devices. It must integrate with such kind of technologies to enhance the the investment, and also furthermore that to increase the benefits of the customers.
Okay, thanks a lot. We are going to take questions from the audience, so you can get them ready now. I don't know where is the mic, and while you maybe think of questions, maybe I don't know if, for example, Maya or for example, Vladimir, you have any comment to add, or before we wait for the first, while we wait for the first question?
Can you make a short comment, or please?
No, go ahead.
No.
I think everybody covered actually all the topics from my side. Yeah, I have nothing more to add.
It just, if you may allow very, very short and direct advice to everybody investing in renewable energy, in particular in solar. Now, my advice would be think about what kind of risks you are ready to take. And those that you are not ready to take, transfer to a party that is able to handle those. That's a very, very, put it in very short sentence. But the essence is that I believe that renewables is getting more and more complex. So it will be even more challenging for all the investor parties in the near future to take decisions. So we already see hybrid projects. We are realizing currently in the Netherlands a project, half of the energy that we need to feed into a wind transmission station, and the other half we need to feed in a production facility. So really arranging that, limiting the self-consumption, meeting the grid codes of the different countries. Those are challenges that are coming up, and when we develop a project and when we think we're going to realize an investment return that is only on paper, it's very difficult to handle on site, right? And in reality. We also see the tendencies of bringing storage, but there are not too many companies and technological partners that understand storage.
Yes.
I mean, it's very difficult to procure and engineer and integrate it in the existing transmission lines and also within the projects. We see floating projects, for example, with the developments. Currently, we are realizing such a project and we are learning. So there is huge uncertainty about the profitability and the risk of this project. We are getting involved in repowering and revamping projects, right? Projects that are already 15, 20 years old, and there are ways to increase the profitability of such kind of assets. But to put it just in a short sentence, it's getting very, very complex. And here we are fighting really against the alternative of renewable energy in order to be able to go where we want to with the emission reductions. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. So we have our first question here, I guess. Thanks a lot.
So hi, hello everyone, and thank you for the great discussion. So the beginning of the discussion, we mentioned a lot about how important it is to have great EPC services to actually increase your revenue. And the topic was also mentioned that today we're not looking so much at the euro per watt or the dollar per watt of the materials. And since we are just exiting a period in which that price actually increased quite a lot in the last 2 years, I was wondering maybe to Maria, because you mentioned the topic at first, how has that increase in price impacted your plan for your project? Did you have any project that were delayed because of those increases? Were you waiting to develop? Were you waiting to the price to decrease before developing, or has it impacted at all your plans?
First of all, we're a module producer, so I can tell you that yes, there were delays. We all know it was COVID. In Asia, things were not as easygoing as in Europe, so we saw shipping lines reducing the number of ships. We saw conjunctions on ports because there were countries with lockdowns where they couldn't unload the containers, so there was shortage of containers, and then the shipping cost jumped like 3-4 times think we were loading at $2,000 and it reached $18,000 for a container from China to Europe. Yes, this was a big cost hit, like 2-3 cents. Plus there were shortage on other components within the value chain, which really impacted. We're seeing things going back to normal now. China's open, everything is, I think, we have seen the prices settle the last couple of weeks, so yeah. That was a special period for everyone. Even for us, it was like a roller coaster.
Thanks a lot. Do we have a second question maybe from the audience?
Always clear.
Okay.
I think
All
they're
right.
hungry.
So thanks a lot, you guys. I hope that you all learned something and that you find this that it was interesting to join this panel. The next session starts at 2 p.m. and in the meantime, enjoy your lunch. Bye.